Why?
Are you cold?
Yes, I'm cold.
You're not cold. You're just trying to hide your PVC
Yeah.
sweater.
I know.
Good day, YouTube. Schneeb back at you out here in the shop. Nice cold December day. No heat yet. Got Mikey in the shop getting some work done today. He ain't learned nothing in shop class at school, so he may as well come out here and do some real work. We got our next victim here. It's Arctic Cat, 2014 Arctic Cat, 5-something TRV. It's got a busted back CV axle on the left side, so it's basically one-wheel drive right now. And it needs some wheel bearings and brakes. Okay, the CV axle nut is being a real pain on this one, so we're gonna hit it with some heat because heat fixes everything. Apparently we need more heat. So that did it. Heat fixes everything. So we'll let that cool down a bit and go do the other three. Okay, this has only got the one back brake. A lot of these will have one shared brake for the back axle because it's locked up solid anyways. There's not a true differential. Some of them will have the brake inboard on one side or the other of the differential. In the case of some of the Polarises, they put them in front of the differential. So usually only one brake in the back is what I'm getting at. Two little 10 mils. Caliper and your hub. If you're doing your back disc, which hardly anybody ever does, there's 4 Torx here, and those are definitely things that need to be heated up to get them out. So to get your pads out, you basically have to slide the pin all the way back. Okay, you can see how that moves on there. Okay, your slides. If they're seized up, you're in for a different job, but okay, so slide it in all the way. Put a clamp on there and just push your piston in a bit, depending on how worn out your pads are. This one's fairly worn out, but they're uneven. And you just gotta squeeze it. You can see how easy that moves. Once you got those back, pads slide out real easy. The good thing about this machine is all 3 brakes use the same pad. So when it comes to ordering parts, just order 3 of the same. Some of them will sell it as a set. This particular one was individual. And boy, they wrap them up good. Quite a bit more material on these ones. Not as much as some of the machines I usually see, because let's be honest, most people go pretty heavy on the back brake and never touch the fronts. So they tend to be beefier, especially because there's only one. But these, again, they're all the same. So make sure your linings are facing one another and slide them in like so. And these are going to be a little tighter fit because they're new and they have more material. Just like that. Okay, and they're on. Now, because we've still got to deal with a wheel bearing, we'll just put that aside for now and deal with this. Ow. Knuckles. Alright, if you want to play hard, go play hard. That one's really ready to come out. It helped itself. Which everything did that. Just put one tool on it and it just falls apart for you. So there's our right side. So this wheel bearing is not really sloppy, but you can hear it's bone dry. There's no grease left in it. And when the machine was moving, it was doing a lot of squeaking. Okay, so the wheel bearings on these are held in with a C-clip. Got to pull that one out. Okay, C-clip's out. It's a pretty stout one, so you need a pretty good pair of pliers to do it. What I do is I get one side up and then just get in there with a straight screwdriver and walk around and pull it out. Okay, now you got to press that out because even with the clip, you can't just pull these out. So lay it down on the press and pop it out that way. You could try beating it out, but I got to press, so I'm going to use it. Okay, so pressing them out is easy because you got a flat surface. Pressing them in is a little more challenging. So just a matter of finding a socket that'll work. See how easy it gets moving. I'm barely even pulling here. Okay, one bearing pushed out. Okay, so we're setting up to push in the new one here. Just got it sitting in there. The hardest part is figuring out how to set your blocks up to get it as flat as you can. Okay, I'm using a socket that's the size of the outer race, not the inner, and that middle one is just a cover for grease. Okay, so never push on that one. Biggest thing is getting it started straight. If you're crooked at the beginning, it's gonna suck. And you've seen how easy it came out, so it goes in about the same. Nothing really to it. Again, making sure you start straight is the most important part. There we are. Simple as that. Now a lot of people will do the, oh, you should freeze the bearing and heat the thing, and it take me more energy and time to do that. If you are going to do it, you don't have a press and you are going to plan on that, make sure you take your rubber bushings out. Otherwise they're going to melt in your oven. Okay, they just come out. Good idea too. Take these out while you're in here, grease those things up, put them back in. You don't want those ever getting really rusty to the point where it's causing your suspension to bind on you. Okay, I lubed up my pins. Put the little bushings back on. Slide it nice and smooth now. C-clips back in, did that off camera, nothing for that. And assembly is real simple. Okay, put your bolts back in. Nylock nut on the front. Helps if you take the nut off first. Years of experience has taught me that taking the nut off a bolt makes it go in easier. And then throwing it across the shop. And then find your hub. That, no washer. It's part of the nut. Okay, caliper, we already got our new brake pads installed. You just gotta kind of hold them apart. And they're two tiny little bolts. Oh, I love it when the holes line up first go. Look at that. Juicy little new cotter pin. I'll mess around here. Okay, the last thing to do here is to pump up that brake. And reset the piston. See it's moving there. And there you go. Okay, so there's how you put your new rear wheel bearing in and your rear brakes. Well, we ever need this. Your favorite. Push harder. There you go. Okay, pull that, just pull that right out.
What?
Yank that axle out of there. That's how bad this is. It literally blew apart on the inside here. Okay, so there's how we're doing this. We wrap a strap, we just loop it around back there, make another loop on some old nylon strap. You can use any hammer, you just want a little bit of play here. And just swing your hammer. Wow, I don't want to come out. Nope, I ripped the boot out. Well, I got half the axle out.
Don't do that.
Okay, so there's my CV stub. I just want to show you how I did manage to get it out in the end. Because this one was all busted, you can't do the normal thing where you push the shaft in. Inside there, you can't really see it, but inside there is a ball and a little shaft. You can just see there, that actually moves. So similar to like a socket wrench, there's a little check ball right here. You have to push that to allow the check ball to fall so that this can be collapsed and you can pull it out. So what I ended up doing, because it was busted again, I had to jam a bar in here to push on that, but when you do that, you're pushing against it and there's not room to put in any kind of pry bar or anything in here, because all that's inside of the seal. So you can't really reach in like you can on a lot of them. So this is basically smooth. This little lip wasn't enough to push on, so what I did was I drilled a hole, put in a punch, and hit it on an angle while pushing in, and it came out. Kind of a tricky one to get out when they break. Okay, new CV axle going in here. This one's from a company called Track Motive. One thing I'm noticing right off the smash, it does not have the fancy locking ring on it like the factory one. So you don't have to deal with that pin anymore. It's just a standard one where you pop it out. Real easy to put back in. Just put it in, give it a wiggle till you line up some splines. And there you go. See that? The way they should be. Okay, I already pushed out the pins here, cleaned them up on a wire wheel and lubricated them, put them back in, so give you a few more years of trouble-free performance. If you got it off, you may as well do it. Drop the nut, because why not? Okay, so it just slides on. Okay, hub slides back on. Well, the only trick there is to make sure you got a cotter pin spot lined up when you're done. So put it on a bit and loosen it off just a hair to line up the cotter pin. A little trickier than most, but as long as you do that pin part right, it's a pretty easy job. One of the reasons this thing's in here is some collision repair. His son was out driving it at the hunt camp a couple months back and he hit a rock and then a tree. Fortunately nobody got hurt, but you can see here on the grill guard, on the headlight guard, okay, I guess it did its job to some extent. The headlight's still pushed back and the plastic got cracked. Okay, so we're going to try and straighten that out for him. You can see the other side's somewhat different angle there. Yeah, this one's more aerodynamic now. But what he didn't mention was the lower control arm is also bent all the hell. You see here, that one's kind of straight, and this one, not so much. Okay, so we already got the nut loosened off while I was doing the rest, and yes, they all needed to be heated up. Front brakes, the mechanism, the pads, the hardware, all that is identical to what we had on the back, except obviously there's one on each of the front wheels. Yeah, they got me with that one. Figure a 16 here, which would be a 16 there, but no, that's a 15. Nothing to that. Pops up. Okay, now what we got to do here is pull these two bolts so that we can separate our upper and lower ball joints from the steering knuckle. Okay, 13mm head. Same thing with the bearing. You got your clip. Two bolts out of the back of the upper control arm, and you just finagle it out of there. That's supposed to be straight. Fire good. That's an obstinate piece, I'll tell you. Even all that heat, you still don't want to go. Okay, well, I worked on the control arm a little bit and the vise, and I tried it in the press, and there's just no way that I could really, with what I got, get it where I could straighten this properly. They make plenty of pipe benders, but not too many pipe straighteners. I spoke with the owner, and he said he'll deal with it in the spring. So it's a pretty easy thing. You don't need to pull all this off. It's 1, 2, 3 bolts, pop it out and replace it. It's kind of an expensive part, so I understand why he maybe wants to wait. especially being this close to Christmas. But we did get a little bit straighter for them. Okay, so my bearing putting in method is a little bit abstract. Flat plate, bearing, because I got a flat side to deal with there. In here is a lip that's bigger than everything. Big socket, line up that mess, and that'll push your bearing in. Like a glove. Okay, so there's my setup now. I got my other socket that we used to push out the bearing on the bottom, centered off. A top socket that fits that sleeve, which then lets me not have to deal with all these different elevations I got here. Push the bearing in the rest of the way. You could start this way, but it's just easier to make sure the bearing's straight if you just set it flat on that plate. There you go. Just put the clip back in and throw it together. Put your axle back in through the new bearing so that you can get your bolt in. Okay, real easy. This actually went right in first try. Do our top one, same thing. Lifting it with my knee. Bolt. Okay, tie rod end. Right in. Hub goes back. That's off. Like so. And put them over your brake disc. Hardest part, put the caliper on, is finding that little hole. Front wheel bearings, rear wheel bearing, rear CV axle for the 2014 Can-Am 500 TRV. Again, hey, like, comment, and subscribe. It doesn't cost you a dime. Hopefully this helps somebody out there, and we'll see you on the next one.